Nelson Mandela, a man who fought for freedom. He spent 27 years in prison to bring freedom to his people. Nelson Mandela is one of the most famous leaders in the world. He did not fight with guns or violence. He used peace, courage, and strong words to change his country. He helped end a system called apartheid in South Africa. This system separated people by the color of their skin. Black people had fewer rights than white people. Mandela believed this was wrong, and he gave his life to change it. Nelson Mandela was born in South Africa in 1918. He grew up in a small village. His family was part of the Xhosa tribe. As a child, Mandela loved learning. He studied hard and later became a lawyer. He wanted to help people who were treated unfairly. In South Africa at that time, black people could not vote, go to the same schools, or live in the same areas as white people. Mandela wanted to change these rules. In his early life, Mandela joined a group called the African National Congress, ANC. This group fought against apartheid. At first, they used peaceful ways like protests and speeches, but the government did not listen. They arrested many people. Mandela also got arrested. In 1962, he was put in prison. He stayed there for 27 years. He worked hard in prison, studied, and stayed strong. Many people around the world supported him and called for his freedom. Finally, in 1990, Nelson Mandela was released from prison. People were very happy and welcomed him with love and respect. But his work was not finished. He continued to talk to the leaders of South Africa. He wanted peace, not war. In 1994, South Africa had its first free election. All people, black and white, could vote. Nelson Mandela became the first black president of South Africa. Mandela's story is special because he showed the world the power of forgiveness. After so many years in prison, he did not hate the people who put him there. He wanted to build a better future for everyone. He believed that love is stronger than hate. Nelson Mandela died in 2013, but his name and story are still important today. Many people call him a hero. He taught us that one person can make a big difference. He showed us that peace and justice are worth fighting for. This is just the beginning of Nelson Mandela's story. In the next parts, we will learn more about his early life, his years in prison, his leadership, and the lessons we can learn from him. His life is a great example for anyone who wants to make the world a better place. Nelson Mandela. Childhood and education. The early life of a future leader. Nelson Mandela was born on July 18, 1918, in a small village called Mvezo. This village is in the countryside of South Africa. He was part of the Xhosa people, and his family belonged to the Thembu royal family. Even though his family was not rich, they were respected in their community. His birth name was Rolihlala Mandela, which means pulling the branch of a tree, or troublemaker in the Xhosa language. A teacher later gave him the name Nelson when he started school. At that time, it was common for African children to receive English names in school. Nelson's father was a local leader. His name was Gadla Henry Mfakanyiswa, and he worked as a counselor to the king of the Thembu people. Nelson's mother was Nosekeni Fanny, and she was kind and caring. Nelson grew up in a large family. He had many brothers and sisters. His father had 4 wives, which was normal in their culture. When Nelson was a child, he played with other boys in the village. They played games, ran in the fields, and learned traditional stories. Life in the village was simple. People grew their own food and lived close to nature. Young Nelson learned about his culture, his tribe's history, and their customs. A change in life. When Nelson was about 9 years old, his father died. After that, his life changed. He was sent to live in a place called Kunu, and then later with a royal family in Mkekezweni, a larger village. This royal family was led by Chief Jongintaba Dalindyebo, who became like a father to Nelson. Jongintaba promised to raise Nelson and give him a good education. He wanted Nelson to become a leader one day. Living with the royal family gave Nelson new opportunities. He now lived in a bigger house and wore better clothes. He also saw how leaders made decisions. He listened to important meetings and learned how people solved problems. This helped shape his thinking. Education and dreams. Nelson Mandela went to a mission school. The school was run by Christian teachers. He was a good student and liked to learn. He read books, wrote essays, and listened carefully in class. Education became very important to him. After finishing school in Machekizwini, Nelson went to Clarkberry Boarding Institute, a school for black students. Then he attended Healdtown, another respected school. He was quiet but smart. Teachers saw he had great potential. In 1939, Nelson Mandela started university at Fort Hare, the only university for black students in South Africa at that time. He studied English, politics, and law. At Fort Hare, he met many students who also wanted to change the unfair system in South Africa. Mandela joined the student council, but he got into trouble when he joined a protest. The university suspended him, and he had to leave. A new chapter in Johannesburg. When Mandela returned home, the chief wanted him to marry a girl he did not choose. Mandela did not agree. He wanted to make his own choices. So, he ran away to the city of Johannesburg. Life in the city was hard. He worked as a guard and then as a law clerk in a law firm. He also continued his education and studied law at night. In Johannesburg, Mandela saw more of the unfair treatment of black people. He saw that white people had more rights, better jobs, and more power. Black people lived in poor areas and had very few rights. This made Mandela angry, but it also made him want to learn more and help his people. Nelson Mandela. The fight against apartheid. A man who stood up for justice. Nelson Mandela is known around the world for his fight against apartheid. But what is apartheid? Apartheid was a system in South Africa that started in 1948. The word apartheid means separateness in Afrikaans, one of the South African languages. Under apartheid, people were separated by the color of their skin. White people had more power, money, and rights. Black people, and others like Indians and people of mixed race, had very few rights. Black South Africans could not vote, go to the same schools, or live in the same areas as white people. They had to carry passes to move around the country. If they broke the rules, they were arrested. Families were often moved by force. Life was very unfair. Mandela saw this system and wanted to change it. Joining the ANC, in 1944, Nelson Mandela joined the African National Congress, ANC. The ANC was a political group that wanted equal rights for black South Africans. Nelson Mandela and his friends started the African National Congress Youth League. They believed young people needed to speak up and take action. At first, the ANC used peaceful ways to protest. They organized marches, boycotts, and strikes. People refused to buy from white-owned shops. They did not go to work. They wrote letters and gave speeches. Mandela believed that peaceful protest could bring change. One big protest was the Defiance Campaign in 1952. Thousands of black South Africans broke apartheid laws on purpose. They walked into white-only areas or used white-only buses. Many were arrested, including Mandela. But the campaign got world attention, and more people learned about apartheid. Mandela also helped start a law office with his friend Oliver Tambo. It was the first law firm in South Africa run by black lawyers. They helped black people who were treated unfairly in courts. Many poor people came for help. The Freedom Charter. In 1955, Mandela and the ANC helped write the Freedom Charter. This document said all people in South Africa should have equal rights. It said that the country belongs to everyone, not just white people. The Freedom Charter became a symbol of hope, but the government did not like it. Soon, the police arrested Mandela and 155 other people. They were charged with treason, trying to fight the government. The treason trial lasted for years, but in the end, all were found not guilty. The government strikes back. As protests grew, the government became more violent. In 1960, during a peaceful protest in a town called Sharpeville, police shot and killed 69 people. Many of them were shot in the back while running away. This terrible day shocked the world. After Sharpeville, the government banned the ANC and other groups. Mandela and his friends had to work in secret. They met at night and used code names. Mandela started to believe that peaceful protest was not enough. The government was too strong and too cruel. A new kind of fight. In 1961, Mandela helped start Umkhonto we Sizwe, which means Spear of the Nation. It was a new part of the ANC that used sabotage, breaking things like train lines and power stations to hurt the government. They did not want to hurt people, but they wanted the government to listen. Mandela traveled to other countries to get support. He visited leaders in Africa and even went to the UK. He got help from people who also wanted to end apartheid. But in 1962, Mandela was arrested. He was sent to prison for leaving the country without permission. Later, in 1964, he and others were put on trial again. This time, it was for sabotage. The trial was called the Rivonia Trial. The Rivonia Trial and Mandela's Speech. At the trial, Mandela gave a long and powerful speech. He said he fought against white rule and black rule. He wanted equal rights for all people. He said, "I have cherished the ideal of a democratic and free society. It is an ideal for which I am prepared to die." These words became famous around the world. In 1964, Mandela and others were found guilty and sent to prison for life, a legacy of courage. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison, but even behind bars, he gave people hope. His name became a symbol of freedom. People all over the world said, "Free Mandela." They protested, made songs, and spoke to their leaders. The fight against apartheid became a global movement, but it all started with a young man who believed in fairness. Mandela's early activism with the ANC helped wake up South Africa. His courage and strong beliefs showed that one person can make a big difference. In 1962, Nelson Mandela was arrested by the South African government. At first, he was charged with leaving the country without permission and encouraging workers to strike. He was sent to prison for 5 years, but this was only the beginning. Soon after, the police found secret documents. They said Mandela was planning to fight the government. Nelson Mandela and other leaders from the African National Congress were put on trial again. This trial was called the Rivonia Trial. During the trial, Mandela gave a long and brave speech. He said he was fighting against injustice and for equal rights for all South Africans, black and white. He told the court, "I have fought against white domination, and I have fought against black domination. It is an ideal for which I am prepared to die." The judges did not give him the death penalty, but in 1964, Mandela was sent to prison for life. Life on Robben Island. Mandela was sent to Robben Island, a prison on a small island near Cape Town. It was a cold and windy place. The sea around the island was rough, and there were sharks in the water. No one could escape. The prison was very hard. Mandela lived in a small cell with no bed and no toilet, just a mat on the floor and a bucket. The cell was only about 2 meters by 2 meters in size. Prisoners woke up early and worked all day. Mandela had to crush rocks and later work in a lime quarry under the hot sun. The food was also unfair. Black prisoners received less food than white or mixed-race prisoners. Sometimes they were not allowed to wear long pants. The rules were strict. They could not talk to each other during work. Letters and visits were rare. At first, Mandela could only receive one visit and one letter every 6 months. Staying strong inside. Even in these hard times, Mandela stayed strong. He used his time in prison to think, to learn, and to teach. He read books, studied history, and wrote secret letters. He even studied law through a distance learning program. Some people called Robben Island the University of Mandela because he taught other prisoners about leadership and justice. Mandela believed that, even in prison, he could still fight for freedom. He respected the guards, even when they were cruel. Over time, some guards began to respect him too. They saw that he was not a violent man. He was calm, wise, and kind. He also became a symbol. People in South Africa and around the world began to say, "Free Nelson Mandela." His name was not allowed in the newspapers, but people still remembered him. He became the face of the fight against apartheid. Hope and change. In the 1970s and 1980s, many people inside and outside South Africa protested against apartheid. Students marched, workers went on strike, and musicians sang songs about Mandela. Other countries also joined. They stopped doing business with South Africa. The pressure on the government grew stronger. Mandela stayed in prison, but he kept his hope alive. In the 1980s, the government began to talk with Mandela in secret. They knew he was a key leader. They asked him to tell people to stop fighting. But Mandela said he could only ask for peace when all people were free. In 1982, Mandela was moved from Robben Island to a prison on the mainland called Pollsmoor Prison. Later, he was moved again to Victor Verster Prison, where the conditions were better. He was still a prisoner, but he had more space, a private room, and was allowed more visits. He continued to talk with government leaders and push for a peaceful solution. Freedom at last. On February 11, 1990, after 27 years in prison, Nelson Mandela was finally released. The world watched on television. Mandela walked out of the prison holding the hand of his wife, Winnie. He smiled and waved to the crowd. People cheered, cried, and sang songs of joy. It was a moment of history. Mandela did not call for hate or revenge. He called for peace, love, and forgiveness. He said all South Africans must work together to build a better future. A man of peace and courage. Mandela's 27 years in prison were long and painful. He missed many things: his children growing up, his mother's funeral, and the outside world. But he never gave up. He said, "I was not born with the hunger to be free. I was born free. But then I saw that my freedom was not real, and I began to hunger for it." His time in prison changed him. It made him stronger, wiser, and more peaceful. Mandela did not come out of prison with hate. He came out with hope. His legacy lives on. Today, Nelson Mandela is remembered not just as a leader, but as a symbol of courage, patience, and peace. His 27 years in prison were not wasted. They helped change the world. His story teaches us that even in the darkest times, we can choose love over hate and hope over fear. Nelson Mandela, from prisoner to president. On February 11, 1990, after 27 years in prison, Nelson Mandela walked free. He was 71 years old. People all over the world watched him on TV. His wife Winnie held his hand. He smiled, raised his fist in the air, and walked with pride. Crowds cheered, sang, and cried. The long wait was over. The man who fought for freedom was free at last. But Mandela did not call for revenge. He did not speak with anger. He said, "I stand before you not as a prophet, but as a humble servant of you, the people." He called for peace, forgiveness, and unity. The end of apartheid. In the years after Mandela's release, big changes happened in South Africa. The country was still under apartheid, but the government knew it could not last. The people wanted freedom. The world was watching. Nelson Mandela and President F.W. de Klerk worked together. They talked about a new South Africa, a country where everyone could vote and live as equals. It was not easy. Some people wanted to fight. There was violence in the streets, but Mandela stayed calm. He asked people to stop fighting. He believed that peace was stronger than war. In 1993, Mandela and de Klerk won the Nobel Peace Prize. They were honored for ending apartheid peacefully. Mandela said, "Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the triumph over it." South Africa's first free elections. In April 1994, South Africa had its first free and fair election. For the first time, black people, white people, and people of all races could vote. Millions stood in long lines. Some waited for hours, but no one gave up. They knew this day was special. Nelson Mandela voted for the first time in his life. When the results came in, the world celebrated. Nelson Mandela was elected as South Africa's first black president. He won with love and support from many people, both black and white. On May 10, 1994, he gave his first speech as president. He said, "Never, never, and never again shall it be that this beautiful land will again experience the oppression of one by another." Leading with love and forgiveness. Mandela only served as president for 5 years, from 1994 to 1999. But those years were full of hope. He wanted to heal the country. South Africa had many problems: poverty, racism, fear, and pain. But Mandela believed the people could work together. He started the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. This group helped people talk about the past. Victims of apartheid told their stories. People who did bad things also spoke the truth. The goal was not revenge. The goal was understanding and healing. Mandela invited his enemies to talk. He visited white neighborhoods and made speeches about unity. He wore shirts with bright colors and smiled often. People called him Madiba, a name of respect from his tribe. The rugby story. In 1995, South Africa hosted the Rugby World Cup. Most black South Africans did not like rugby. It was a sport loved by white people. The national team, the Springboks, had only one black player. But Mandela had a big idea. He wore the Springbok shirt and cap. He went to the final game. When the Springboks won, he gave the trophy to the captain, a white man. The stadium cheered, "Nelson! Nelson! Nelson!" It was a powerful moment. For many, it showed a new South Africa, a country coming together. This story became a famous movie called Invictus. A president for all people, Mandela worked hard as president. He improved schools, homes, and hospitals for poor people. He built a government that welcomed all races. He helped South Africa make new friends in the world. He also encouraged sports, music, and education. But Mandela also knew that one person cannot do everything. He said he would only serve one term, and he kept his promise. In 1999, he stepped down. He let new leaders take his place. He said, "A good leader knows when to step down." Even after leaving office, Mandela stayed active. He worked to fight HIV and AIDS, and he helped poor children. He started the Nelson Mandela Foundation to continue helping people. A legacy of hope. Nelson Mandela died on December 5, 2013, at the age of 95. People around the world cried and remembered his life. He was more than a president. He was a hero, a peacemaker, a father, and a fighter for justice. Mandela taught us many lessons. Never give up, even when life is hard. Forgive, even when you are hurt. Lead with love, not with hate. One person can change the world. His life shows us that peace is possible, even after great pain. Nelson Mandela's message of peace and forgiveness. A heart bigger than hate. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison. He was treated badly. He missed his family and his freedom. Many people would feel angry and want revenge, but not Mandela. When he left prison, he chose peace. He chose forgiveness. Mandela believed that hate would only bring more hate. He said, "As I walked out the door toward my freedom, I knew that if I did not leave my bitterness and hatred behind, I'd still be in prison." He wanted to build a new South Africa, a country where black and white people could live together. To do that, he needed to forgive the people who had hurt him. Forgiving his jailers. When Mandela was in prison, many guards were cruel to him. They gave him little food, made him work hard, and kept him away from his family. But over time, Mandela showed kindness to the guards. He spoke politely. He listened. He even learned their language, Afrikaans. When he became president, Mandela invited one of his old guards to his inauguration ceremony. He did not want to punish his enemies. He wanted to show the world, we are one nation. Bringing people together. Mandela knew that many South Africans were afraid. Some white people were scared of losing power. Some black people were angry after years of pain. Mandela spoke to both sides. He said, "We must learn to live together as brothers and sisters, or we will die together as fools." He talked about reconciliation, a word that means healing and peace. He believed that the future could be better if people worked together. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission. To help the country heal, Mandela supported the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. This group let people tell their stories. Victims of apartheid talked about their pain. People who did wrong things during apartheid could also speak. If they told the full truth, they could be forgiven. This process helped people understand each other. It was painful, but also powerful. It showed that South Africa could face its past without hate. The rugby moment, one of Mandela's most famous actions, happened in 1995. South Africa hosted the Rugby World Cup. Rugby was a sport loved by white people, not black people. The national team, the Springboks, was a symbol of apartheid for many. But Mandela had a different vision. He wore a Springbok jersey and went to the final game. When South Africa won, he gave the trophy to the white captain. The stadium, filled with white fans, shouted his name, "Nelson! Nelson! Nelson!" This moment showed that Mandela could unite the country with one small but powerful action. Words that healed. Mandela gave many speeches filled with peace and hope. Some of his most famous words are, "No one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin." People must learn to hate, and if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love. He believed that love was stronger than hate. His speeches made people cry, think, and dream. He used simple words, but they touched hearts. A legacy of forgiveness. Even after he left office, Mandela continued to spread peace. He met with leaders around the world. He worked to stop war and fight disease. He never stopped believing in kindness. Mandela showed that peace is not weak. It is brave. Forgiveness is not forgetting. It is choosing to move forward, not backward. He once said, "Forgiveness frees the soul. It removes fear. That's why it's such a powerful weapon." Today, his face is on money, on statues, and in history books. But his real gift is the message he left us. Forgive, heal, unite. A global symbol. Today, Nelson Mandela is a global symbol of peace, hope, and forgiveness. His name is known in every country. People study his speeches in schools. His face is on coins and statues. His words are written on walls and shared online. Every year, on July 18th, the world celebrates Mandela Day, his birthday. On this day, people do good things for others. They help the poor, clean streets, or visit the sick. This is to honor Mandela's life and message. Mandela once said, "What counts in life is not the mere fact that we have lived. It is what difference we have made to the lives of others." Inspiring the next generation. Mandela is no longer alive. He passed away in 2013 at the age of 95. But his spirit lives on. Many young people read his story and feel inspired. They learn that one person can make a big difference. They learn that change is possible, even when it feels far away. Mandela showed the world that kindness is stronger than hate. He showed that forgiveness is not weakness, it is strength. He showed that peace can build a better future. A question for us all. Nelson Mandela's life makes us think deeply. He lost many years in prison. He had every reason to be angry, but he chose love instead of hate. He chose unity instead of revenge. He chose to forgive. He taught us that peace starts in the heart. It starts with one person, one choice, one act of courage. His story asks us, can forgiveness truly change the world? Mandela believed it could, and maybe, if we follow his example, we can help make that dream come true. Let me know if you'd like a full ebook or video script based on this series about Nelson Mandela.